Life Check Yourself with JM Ryerson. Balance, boundaries, and breakthroughs. 5 keys to increase your performance, productivity, and growth. Welcome back to another amazing, if I do say so, episode of Life Check Yourself. Today I have JM Ryerson. He is a leadership and performance coach who helps businesses, check this, double their revenue. He is an international speaker. He's the host of the Let's Go Win podcast that I got to be a guest on. He's a best-selling author of the books called Let's Go Win, Champions Daily Playbook, and Upgrade. He's been building companies and leading sales teams for over 20 years as the founder of CEO of Let's Go Win. I'm super excited that you're here. I had so much fun in our conversation on your show. I was like, let's do it.
Well, you were awesome on it. And if people haven't checked it out, you absolutely should, because Marnie crushes it as a guest. I'm excited to have you as a host today. So just to see you smiling, it always makes my day a little bit better.
Oh, that's so nice. All right. Well, I wanted to talk about something that I think a lot of people are struggling with, especially now. So let me just sort of set up what I'm seeing. Pandemic vibes. Life is really meaningful. We want to have balance, work remote, mat leave, pat leave, like all this like kumbaya vibes. And now everything is different. We're coming back to the office. I have so many women who I work with who are in their late 40s, 50s, corporate reorgs, brand new boss, work harder, do more. What is going on out there in the world of work?
Yeah, it is pretty fascinating because we had such a radical shift where we're like, okay, we're all staying home, whether we like it or not. And, it's just like anything. You get used to something. But in that beginning, this is literally why I wrote Upgrade. People don't like change.
No.
By and large, if I ask 100 people, you do. See, you're the one out of...
No, I don't. I don't like change. No, like you will have to pry my fingers off the ledge one at a time and hear my painful scream as I fall.
Yeah. So you and my wife would just be simpatico. She is the same way. She likes routine. She likes the same thing, which is totally cool. I get it. And there's reasons that there's what I call an upgrade. Same thing, right? And that's what I want people to realize is like, okay, we're going back to the office. There's probably a reason we want to do that. Maybe productivity is down. Perhaps culture is not fitting. Something's going on. And so it's like, we can hold on, like you said, like prying me off. Like, I don't want to go. But here's the reality. It's going to happen.
Yep.
So let's look at why. And let's talk about what is some of the good stuff that's going to come of it. I will tell you, as much as I enjoy working from home, you don't get the same energy as if you're around somebody. You can't duplicate that energy that you have in person. As good as Zoom is, or Riverside in this case, I get to see you. But you know what, Marnie? If you and I were having a cup of coffee, oh my gosh, it's a different level of energy. So it's just one of those things that I think people are going to just, all right, it's an upgrade from what we're doing. Let's look at the benefits and the positive and not fight it so much is probably the advice I would give. But yeah, you're right, man. We're going back and it's like, I'm not ready for that. I really like what I do. Okay, cool. And guess what? You used to really thrive in this environment. You'll do fine in a couple of weeks.
That's so true. Okay. So if someone is struggling with their mindset about work right now, what are some of the things that you recommend so that they can feel empowered? Because I think because of a lot of this, the default is to go into the narrative of being the victim, right? The story is, why bother? Now that, it's bad, my boss is out to get me. So how do we, if we have to change and make that upgrade, how can it serve us?
Yeah. Great question. And by the way, this is going to apply to anything. We have incredibly destructive brains, and we also incredibly creative brains that we create these amazing stories. And there's some truths to it. And we've created something that maybe that's not all that's really going on. So the first thing I would tell somebody, if they're struggling with going back to work in this instance, write down how you're feeling. Just literally grab pen and paper and just start to write. Write about the good, the bad, and the ugly, because here's what's going to happen. You're going to get all of it out, and now we can actually start to focus on, well, actually, you know what? I get a little downtime. I get a little commute time. Now I have time to catch up with girlfriends on the phone, or I just get to listen to a podcast that I never get the chance to do at home. And so you're going to start to see the benefits. But if you're literally stuck in your head that this is awful, guess what?
It'll
what
be
you
awful.
focus on, yeah, that's right. And it's just going to expand. So it's just one of those things to just, anytime you have this, stop for a second and let's respond, not react.
Right.
And the best way to respond is let's just write, get it out, brain dump. And then let's look at what's really going on so we can deal with, okay, there's some challenges logistically, like, man, it's an extra hour commute to my day. That kind of stinks.
Right.
But what could I get out of that in a positive? And you'll see the checks and balances. So you do have some harmony to whatever upgrade you're making.
Do you think that work-life balance, I ask this question to so many people, do you think that's a real thing? Some people will say, oh, you can't be balanced. You want to be harmony. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I actually have, it might still be on my website, work-life balance. I literally have a sheet on it. So do I believe in it? Yes. And I think harmony is a better word, work-life harmony. And here's why.
Okay.
A balance and a scale that means that it's always got to be balanced, right? Like you're going to have half the time that you're at work and half the time personal. That's literally never going to happen.
Okay.
You're going to have more time at home sometimes and more time at work. So the balance and a scale, that idea I think is flawed. Harmony to where it's like, look, I need to really grind at work. And by the way, I should probably check in with my spouse, kids, health, mental health, all the things so that I don't completely go haywire. So I think it's just this balancing act of checking in to say, all right, I might have to grind a little bit at work right now.
Right.
But am I checking in on these other things as well? And I think that's just reality. And just know that this too shall pass. And you know what? Now I'm taking a vacation. So I don't have as much going on with work and I'm shutting that down. Cool. So now my harmony is way more towards my family, but just know that it's never going to be a perfect balancing act and things are going to flow a little bit.
It's almost like what you're saying is that we have to, because I think we get so focused on the micro moment, of the day or the week or like that feeling of like, and what you're saying is like, take this pause and look and design so that there is some ebb and flow to your all the parts of your different parts of your life.
No, I think that's spot on. This is why I meditate every single day, is to literally say, okay, man, we're going to be present for 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever I'm going to give myself. I am going to really just be in the moment because it's going to slow everything down. And it's not going to feel so chaotic and, oh my gosh, this is just the biggest thing. Well, just let's relax. We're going to respond and not react to whatever's going on. But you're right. We are conditioned, especially in the world of go, cell phone, emails, and we're getting flashing notifications everywhere.
Right.
It's like, let's just pause for a second, because is that really that important? Maybe.
Yeah.
But do I have to do it right this second? No, you're conditioned to say I have to. That's actually not the case. It's going to be just fine. Just relax a little bit.
I know for me, like when I get on a task, like stopping in the middle of a task is so challenging. But sometimes when I get off that task, then all of those incoming things, it's almost like I forget that I was doing it. And then I'm like, oh, let me do this email. Oh, wait, my husband's texted me, asked me a question. Oh, I'm doing this. So how do we what are some strategies that we can use or implement to try to be more focused and to not feel that the frenetic hustle energy? Because I think we can be productive without having to like raise our cortisol and stop breathing and, be holding our shoulders up by our ears.
Yeah, this is so huge. And actually, Charles Duhigg wrote about this in The Power of Habit. We are literally allowing people to come in and interrupt us. And the problem is, if you know about the state of flow, the most optimal way that a human being can actually act is when we're in flow. That means we're not getting interrupted. So, for instance, you wrote books. So you literally, it's like, in order to get into really writing well, at least for me, I had to get into flow. I couldn't have cell phones going off and people interrupting. And so I started writing at 4 a.m. I was like, look, no one's up at 4 a.m. So I'm committing this time from 4 to 6 a.m. And sometimes I would just write ferociously. And sometimes I was like, I'm stuck. And then I would go for a walk, right? So I can get the blood flowing and get that going. But to your question, what are the strategies? Really be intentional about turning off your notifications.
Yeah.
About putting a sign on your door that says, do not interrupt during this time, and be okay with that. And really just be intentional about it. So it's not like rocket science, but it does take a bit of discipline to say, look, here's a boundary. It's when you come in, I'm going to give you 100%. But right now, you're not welcome, because I am writing. I am doing my emails. I am doing my phone calls. Whatever that task is, I'm going to give 100% to it. And when I'm done with that, I'm going to give 100% to the next thing. Now, I will tell you, ladies out there, especially my wife, she goes, no, I'm a great multitasker. And I'm like, okay, so let's just do the math. If I give you 10 things to do and you have 100%, how much you can give 10% to each thing? If I give you one thing and you can do 100% to it, are you more effective? And she's like, well, yes, but I'm still really good at multitasking. And I'm like, okay, got it. But yeah, I just think it's something we just have to be intentional about.
Yeah, for me, what I ended up doing was batching things, because for me, I realized, like, when I'm in the coaching flow, like, boom, boom, give me 10 people in a row, let's go. It was harder for me to like work on some emails, then do coaching, then, and it was almost like the getting work done. So I batched it. But what I just did by accident, I found out was so helpful. So I realized for Riverside, the platform we record on, I need like a separate hard drive because it's so hungry for bandwidth. So anyway, we got this like little tiny hard drive thing, we put the lights, whatever. And my husband was like, okay, this is where you're going to record, right? And I didn't put anything on this computer, like no apps, no Slack, no social media, no photos, no anything. And I started realizing, holy crap, like I'm so much more productive because I don't have all those apps that are like on my computer. So it's made a huge difference. And then I just use my phone for those things. But I think that's the other thing, is how do we design our computers kind of like our workspace, right? And I'm bad at tech. So I would imagine that if I were actually to go in and be like, how do I actually manage my environment? I could even be more productive. Did you ever talk about that with any of your clients, about how they're using all those things?
It's fun. I rarely do. And this is actually, it's a good point that you're bringing up, because I so often focus on maybe the triggers they have, i.e. what makes you want to dive into that. I'm bored, so I start to scroll. Okay, cool. Maybe instead of doing that, get up and go for a walk. And here's my best example. So I know I don't talk about this very often, because I'm not techie at all. That's probably why I don't have notifications. You look like a techie guy because you've got a nice background. Looks all like organized. Well, I outsourced. My wife, again, she absolutely dialed this in. She crushed it. But what's interesting, Marty, is I used to do this really long morning routine. And I mean 2.5 to 3 hours. And I was like, okay, this is a bit excessive. And what I was noticing is, man, I would crush right after my morning routine from like 9 a.m. to like 1 p.m. I would crush. Then I might have lunch, and really the doldrums of the afternoon would come, and I'm like, well, this sucks. I'm not very effective in the afternoon. Well, why? I was putting so much front-loaded stuff. I took like parts of that and I've added now to my afternoon to say, like, For instance, before I got on, I went and did a cold plunge today because
Nice.
I was feeling a little slow and I was like, I want to give 100% to this interview because I love it. So I hopped in the cold plunge, 3.5 minutes, and I'm like, all right, let's go. And the dopamine spike that happens is what's happening. So I'm firing at the same I would in the morning, but now it's in the afternoon because I did these things. So I think if we're intentional about these things, like don't have all the notifications. Cool. Great idea. Let's plug in a walk every couple hours.
Yeah.
Let's make sure and do some push-ups or whatever. Get the body moving so that you don't have biology literally fighting you.
That's so good. So I was reading your intro and I was like, wow, he's helped people like create all this revenue and create success. What is the key? Because I think so many people are like, what's the strategy? What's the strategy? What's the strategy? Or I call it the blame, too tired, too lazy to deal with it problem. But like, how does one say like, I'm going to create more revenue, get that promotion, like whatever it is?
Yeah, it's so true because I think people are by and large, they're tired because they are juggling a lot of things.
Yeah.
So for me, it's being extremely intentional. For instance,
okay.
I feel 1,000% confident. There's not a company out there, I should say a company at 500 or less, because once you get a bit above that, some bureaucracy and red tape gets in the way. But let's just say it's a company of 500 or less.
Okay.
I can absolutely double, if not triple the revenue of that company in 1 year. And the reason I'm so confident saying that is because, well, I simplify everything. I do what's called the one sheet, and this is really, really simple stuff. But typically, companies haven't spent the time to do this. Who are we? Why do we exist? How do we behave? What are the values, our 3 values, and what are we trying to accomplish? And what happens is once we do that, now everybody's rowing the boat in the same direction.
Right.
Before, we're running around like crazy. We're active and man, I'm busting my butt, but the results just aren't there. Well, the reason being is because we're not all trying to accomplish the same thing. And it is wild to me, Marnie, with how busy our world is, that people just don't stop, again, slow down and say, what are we trying to accomplish? What's your role in this whole deal? What are we standing for? And when you do that, it's like just putting kerosene on a fire. It just kind of blows up because everybody's like, all right, man, I know what I'm supposed to do. Let's do it. And it just makes it that much more simple. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it totally does. And I was just, when you were talking, I was thinking, because every time I interview someone, I'm like, how does this apply to me? Because I'm talking to like the smartest people on the planet. But I was thinking about this, like when you have that goal or you have that focus, my problem as a leader is like, I'm an ideas person. So I meditate and I show up and I'm like, hey guys, no, we're going to do this. Or I have these big ideas, like I should do an event. Maybe I'll do a summit. Like I have these big ideas and then I really never want to pursue those, do those or whatever, because I'm just doing the thing, you know? And I'm guessing that companies too do this. Like they get siloed, right? And doing all that. So if you're a person who has ideas, is there a way that you can move forward on those things, but also sort of like keep your eye on what you're talking about, the simple one sheet goals?
Yeah. So you and I also have the same thing. It's like shiny object over here. Oh my gosh, I could do that because I'm really talented. I could do all these things. And you're right. You absolutely could. But what I call our core 3 things? Okay. So if I were to say to Marnie right now, I'm like, hey, Marnie, for you to have an absolutely incredible day, what are the 3 things you have to get done? And most people can't answer that straight away. They'll be like, well, dude, I got a lot of stuff. I got to answer emails and I got to reach out to clients and I got to do billing and they'll give me a litany of things. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, all those things should probably get done. But Marnie's an idea person. So I'm going to say coming up with great ideas, that's probably one of your core 3. Now, having somebody that actually executes on that and holding them accountable to it, that might be the second thing that Marnie needs to do. And so it's one of those things where you want to kind of put up the bumpers and polling to be like, you know what? I know I love to bowl on all these lanes, but I really want to just focus here. So these bumpers are going to keep me on this lane. So guys, here's my idea, and I'm going to write that down. You get to hold me accountable to no more ideas for the next 90 days.
I literally love that, dude. It's because I have this thing too where I'll say, and I would love for you to talk about setting boundaries as a leader, because my thing is like, I'll be like, I'm not doing this on Monday and I'm not doing this on Fridays, because I was telling you, right? And then, someone will ask, oh, I'm in New Zealand. Do you mind if we do that at 6 p.m.? And I'm like, eh. And my executive assistant's like, wait, you said you weren't going to do that. And then I say, well, how do we, right? Trigger. So like, how do we get over FOMO, right? Or how do we set those boundaries so we can have that work-life harmony, so that we can do our work batching? Like, because I feel like people are going to leave, they're going to write down all these things, and then they'll do what I do sometimes, which is like, yes. And then they just go back to the old way.
Yeah, people don't like saying no. It's similar to people don't like change. By and large, people are uncomfortable disappointing someone else. They'll disappoint themselves all day. But someone else to say, Marnie, no, I'm not going to do that, super uncomfortable. But here's the deal. Every time you say yes, you're saying no to something else.
Yes,
that could be your kids. That could be your health. That could be your spouse, your whatever. When you say yes, for those people pleasers out there, you're saying no to something else. So when you think, I don't want to disappoint anyone, well, guess what? You're disappointing your kids, because you're saying yes to somebody in New Zealand that at 6 o'clock, sure, I can do that. Well, of course you can, but what's the sacrifice?
Right.
Now you're sacrificing your time with, again, I look at my kids as my test. I won't let them down. I refuse to. They are my everything. So it's like, if I say yes to everything, I'm saying no to them, and that's not okay with me. So I think it's just getting really clear on your why. Whatever that why is. My why is my kids, my wife, family is really important to me. My why is to help people in business. And if this thing, whatever this thing is, doesn't support that, I'm going to say no. It doesn't mean I'm being a jerk. It just means that doesn't make sense for me right at this moment. Perhaps we can find time. I just did this. Somebody has this great mastermind event, and I'm like, you know what? I'm mastermind out right now.
Right.
Come back in 6 months and let's take a look. It doesn't mean that you don't have a great mastermind, tons of value, but literally my bandwidth, I can't do it. And I don't care if it's the greatest mastermind in the world. I can't commit to it because I've committed to these other things, and then be okay with it. I don't know.
I think that's a great answer. It's the being okay with it. I was thinking about that the other day, because my mom, I didn't really realize this because my mom didn't work, but she was the one who modeled FOMO, because she said yes to anything. She was like an energizer bunny, but also sometimes I think at the expense of herself. But I realized, oh my God, like this, like, oh, but I might be missing out on that fun thing. Like the mastermind, maybe it's like, it's not like, oh, the learning, but you're like, oh, but all the cool kids are going to be there and we're going to, go to that event. And so it's really just being like, okay, I am saying yes to something else by saying no to this thing. I think that's a great exercise. Okay. My other question for you, I'm just like getting all the questions that people are asking me, like all the time right now, which is around teams. And I know you're an expert at teams because you don't like double and triple revenue without dealing with teams. First of all, like, what do you do when there is that person on your team who is like Eeyore, or a bad leader, or doesn't empower you, or isn't the one who's helping you grow in your own career? What do you do when you feel that? And what do you do to get out of it, manage it, get around it? I think people get stuck.
Yeah, it's such an important question. So the first thing I would say is Eeyore in this example, is it Eeyore's fault? And here's what I mean by that. Are we clear on exactly what we expect of Eeyore? i.e., do we expect a happy, fun, competitive work environment? And if that's what we've established and Eeyore's not bringing that to the table, then that's a simple equation. We need to remove Eeyore. However, before we just do that, we should be very clear on exactly what the expectations are. This is where I feel most teams drop the ball. They think that we know what our culture is. People know how to behave. No, people don't know because we suck at reading minds. And
Right.
Eeyore may have no idea that Marnie expects you to be energetic and excited and positive and give high fives. And Eeyore's like, well, I get my work done and I'm really good at it. And you're like, no, dude, you're killing me right now. Eeyore doesn't realize that because we haven't brought the mirror in front of them and said, look, here's a model of what I expect. And right now we're not there. But if you can get there, I love to have you on the team. If you can't, this won't make sense. But you have to establish it right out of the gate. And I find it, Marnie, so often when I ask these teams, I'm like, how are you supposed to behave on a daily basis? They're like, I don't know. I'm supposed to show up on time. I'm like, so you have no real idea what you're supposed to act like. Is it excited? Is it competitive? What is it? And if you don't do that as a leader, you're the one at fault. It's not Eeyore. Once you establish it, now, then you can come to Eeyore later and say, look, this just isn't a great fit for you. Let's find a better fit for you because I'm not loving this. You probably aren't either. Let's find you a better role for you.
Why do you think people just let the Eeyores be? Because I was talking to somebody about another thing and she was like, yeah, you know, like sometimes in organizations, this person isn't performing poorly, but they're not a great leader, right? So everyone who's kind of below them is just like, right? But they never like move them out or get rid of them because they're doing the job or it's good enough for the person above them. Why does that happen? Why do people just sort of like avoid the good enough things that are happening in their company and on their teams?
Yeah, it's a fascinating question because it surprises me how frequently people have just settled and said, well, you know, it's good enough. What in the heck does that mean? Have you never been part of a great team? A great team is exciting. It's fun, energizing. And so here's the deal. A players won't come to work with C players. And if you have a bunch of C players, oh no, you're going to have that really mediocre team. So you have to stand up and say, all right, this is what I'm looking for. And we're not accepting mediocrity. We are looking for exceptional because we spend almost 33% of our lives at work. Why wouldn't you want it to be freaking awesome?
Right.
But yet I think people are like, well, you know, it's a body, so they didn't do anything bad. Well, guess what? You don't want to feel like that. And if you feel that way, imagine how your clients feel. They're feeling the same darn way. So it is really interesting when you've felt like you're on a great team. You would never allow that to happen again because you realize how awesome it is.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. Here's my last question, but this is another thing that I really see when I'm working with leaders, especially in companies that are like just a little past startup or like $1 million revenue or whatever. When there's chaos or problems happen, they're taking it personally. You know, like, why is this happening to me? I just had a client who's like, I was, driving to deliver the shipment of my product. I was doing a 2-hour thing. I was getting paid. I decided to delegate. The freight company screwed it up. Why did I even bother? Right? And I see this happening, like this person quit. Oh, I'm trying so hard, but nothing is working for me. How do we get out of that? Because I think there's just so much self-sabotage in the idea that like when it doesn't go right, it means something and why bother? We just take it so personally.
Yeah, it is interesting because look, if everything was perfect, most people wouldn't be comfortable. They would actually get really bored. And so what's fascinating is things actually happen for you. And I know people hate that saying. They're like, BS, man. It's happening to me. You don't realize how much I'm the one being affected. And they go right into, like you said, the victim role. Look, everything happens for you. And I don't care how awful. I mean, I literally think of the worst things that have happened to human beings, including myself, that in the moment, it sucks. I get it. It's like, dude, I am literally drowning here. This is not fair. And you want to play the victim card.
Right.
Well, Well, the problem is it's not doing anything for you. You're
No.
not learning the incredible lesson that the universe is providing to you.
Right.
And so it's when that happens, when something happens, again, we want to stop and go, all right, let's take the emotions out of it for a second. Go ahead and write if that's your thing, or meditate, or whatever your thing is, to be present. What can I learn from this right now?
Yeah.
And ask yourself that question, because you're going to find absolute gold in the answer, which is like, you know what? I didn't do logistics very well. I didn't see this problem that came up. And when you own it, now you're giving yourself the power to come up with a solution to overcome it. So it is one of those things that, as a victor and not a victim, if you can see, thank you, God, universe, whoever you want to credit this problem to, thank you for showing me this solution that I would have not seen without it. And it is just wild. People don't love that answer, but it's just true.
No.
You're not a victim.
That's so
You
funny.
are so strong and powerful. You got to just own it.
Yeah. And how do you, and what's the difference? Cause I know you're so good at articulating these things of like, I'm owning it, I'm taking responsibility. And, why does this always happen to me? You know, like what's wrong with me? Why didn't I see that? I'm so stupid. I shouldn't have made that mistake. Cause I think, especially people who are starting businesses, you know, they decide to go to the trade show, or they decide to, you know, hire that vendor or close that location down or whatever it is. Right. And it doesn't go well. And they're like, that's a sign from the universe. You know, how do you take agency, but also not, take it as a sign, make it mean more than it does?
Yeah. What I would say is, look, those that have succeeded have failed again and again and again, and they get back up and they do it again. Now, if at some point you're like, this sucks, I hate doing this, you should probably look for a new career job thing.
Right.
If this is habitual. And my best example is my second company was 6 years of literally waking up every day and going, I don't want to go to work. Now, we were crushing it financially. I mean, from the outside looking in, my life looked great, you know, making incredible money, but my wife and I are separated for a year. My health is an absolute disaster, and there's absolutely one person to blame. It was me. I was not taking account for, you know what? You don't have to be at this company. You're choosing to. That word is a big, big word. You only have to do 5 things that I know of. You have to breathe, sleep, eat, drink, and have shelter. Those are 5 things that a human being has to do. Everything else is a choice. And so when you can just accept that, like, okay, I'm going to choose to go to work today, and I'm going to choose to have an absolutely amazing day. And then you get your ass kicked. Well, guess what? The next day, you get to choose again. I'm going to go have an excellent day, or I'm not. And so it's one of those things where if you can stop yourself to say, look, I'm going to get knocked down a few times. It's just a matter of, can I get back up? And do I learn from that lesson? So maybe that trade show wasn't good. Okay. No, note for self. Don't go to that trade show next year.
Right.
Don't make that mistake. Otherwise, but that's the lesson.
I think being a leader, owning your own business, starting something, pursuing a dream. I don't know where we got sold this idea that if we just do the right thing, you know, like follow our purpose or whatever it is, that then that means we're guaranteed you know, automatic entry and no challenges and instant, you know, gratification and success. Because I think people sabotage so many things because they don't want to figure out how to stand up, you know, when it hurts.
Yeah. And I say this to video game people. I'm not a gamer, but if everything was perfect and you perfected the game, and every time you picked up the game, you literally, it was perfect
win.
score.
Yeah.
You would be bored out of your mind and you would no longer do it. That's the funny thing about leaders and entrepreneurs. We love challenges. In the moment, the reason we complain is we want to go, hey, Marnie, I want you to have some sympathy for me. I want you to feel my pain.
Right.
Because I'm going through it. Of course you are. And by the way, so is Marnie, so is everybody in this world. They have their own sob story. But just remember, those challenges are what really excites you. That's why you love getting and tackling that. When you overcome that challenge, you're like, oh man, now what can I take on? So it is funny that these challenges in the moment, we're like, oh, this is just BS. And you guys don't understand how horrible it is. Again, just say thank you. Thank you for the challenge. And guess what? You didn't take me down. I'm going to get back up again tomorrow. And now I know I can overcome the next challenge because I just overcame this one.
Yeah. I feel like relationships, you're starting a business, your goal, like big dream, big challenge, it's all like a mirror. Okay. My last question for you, because you've had like how many companies? 3, 6, something like that.
I've sold 3 is what I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Because I remember when we were talking, I was like, damn. If you could distill down like your 3 biggest lessons, because I know you've got like a bunch of books in your coaching, but if you were to say like, what was the thing that you learned through each of those experiences, those 3 top things, what would they be? I'm so curious.
Yeah. Number 1 is being vulnerable. And it's funny because my first book, that's chapter 1. Now, if you know me, I'm a kid from Montana that was taught boys don't cry. So me to come out and talk about being vulnerable, I wasn't taught this stuff. This is something I had to learn to really be vulnerable and show up as my most authentic self. That's when my leadership absolutely took off. And gosh, if I get nothing across more today, I hope people can take off the masks and just be their authentic self. I think that is the number 1 thing that I would put out there. The second thing is courage is a muscle. It gets stronger the more you use it, right? And so I'm not saying a new venture, it's like, yeah, there's some scary times. Just flex that courage muscle a little bit each day. And each day you're going to get a little bit stronger and going to be able to accomplish more. And then the last thing, I would say I have a saying that I use: past is pain, future is anxiety, present is everything. Now, I borrowed most of that from Lao Tzu, but I just made it simple. Again, it doesn't mean that everything in the past is painful. I love thinking of my kids as babies and, sports and all that stuff. But if I'm looking at the past always, I'm kind of saying my life sucks right now.
Right.
Future is anxiety. I love goals. I'm all about it. But if I'm constantly focused on the next thing, what are we doing? I'm creating so much anxiety. I'm not able to actually be present in this moment. And so the more that we can just sit and be in this present moment, that's when you create the life by design. That's when you create this incredible journey where you're like, oh my gosh, because we're only guaranteed right now.
Yeah.
I'm not guaranteed an hour from now. I don't know what's going to happen. Now, I think I'll be alive. I hope so. But I'm guaranteed right now. So right now, I want to give everything I have to Marnie. And when I'm done, Marnie, and I'm on with my client call afterwards, I'm going to give everything to them. And then when I'm done, I'm going to give everything to my family. When you do that, you'll be amazed when you put your head on the pillow at night, how rewarding and fulfilling that day was, because you weren't thinking about the past, you weren't thinking about what's coming up, but rather soaking in the moment and what's happening. So that would be lesson 3. I guess those would be my 3.
Oh, when I'm doing a podcast and I think of like 5 people I want to send it to, I know it's a good one. I love that. Also, okay, side note, did you get a cold plunge for your home?
I'm so sorry. What did you say?
Did you get your cold plunge at home? Or did you go somewhere every day? Because I had one in the fall and the summer. It was easy to cool, but in the winter, I live in winter. Do you live in winter?
I live in South Florida, so I need to have a chiller.
Yeah.
And it's worth every dime that I spent. I will say, yeah.
You will say what?
I know when you look at it, like when I told my wife, I'm going to get this one. And she's like, that's like 10 grand for a tub. I'm like, all right, I'll get this one. It's like 2 grand. And I know it's kind of expensive. I do understand that. And yet the benefits of a cold plunge are so flipping worth it. And I know people all the time, they're like, I don't like being cold. No one does, by the way. I hate it. And the first 30 seconds suck. The next 3 to 4 minutes, however long you stay in there, is euphoric. And they literally did a study. I know I'm probably going over time, but
no, it's fine, because I really literally was like, should we because we had a really simple one, and it was easy to keep it cold until like, November, when it got down to like 27. Then I had a very small ice skating rink. And now there's a gym, they have it, but I'm not doing it every day like I was before. So I just was curious about, you probably know the science and all those things, because I think those things, the small things that we do can make a big difference. So no, tell me, go into it.
So they did studies on this. And when we drink alcohol, we get about a 9-minute dopamine spike. When you go on a cold plunge, you get that same spike for 2.5 to 3 hours. You feel like you're lit on fire when you get out of that thing. Like, it is just, let's go.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. Like, if I'm ever tired, my wife knows now. She's like, just go hop in the cold plunge, man. Like, I don't want to hear about it. Just go hop in the cold plunge. And she's right. It is one of those gifts that and by the way, I get it. The first 30 seconds suck. Just deal with it, and then you'll love the next 3 minutes.
I also found that when I started doing it over and over, like all the time, the first 30 seconds sucked, but also I was like, honestly, this isn't that bad. It was almost like when I first started, I was like, there's all these pictures of me just going like, like that. But yeah, I really miss doing it daily. So I might have to go for the big, since I'm settled in one place now. Thank you for that. I love it. I love people who give testimony to the small things they do that make a huge difference. And it's like someone told me, meditating, cold plunge, whatever. I don't have time for that. I'm too busy. And this person said, if you don't have time, then you need to do that.
Great advice.
I know.
Great
it's
advice.
Like, if you have time to meditate for 5 minutes, then you should be meditating, my friend. So fun talking to you. You are such a freaking rock star. Ladies, and gentlemen, because I know, low-key, I know you're out there. You can find more about JM Ryerson at letsgowin.com. He has a great podcast, Let's Go Win podcast. He's on LinkedIn. He's on all the places. We've got a book, also your Let's Go Win book, that is available. We're going to put a link to that in the show notes. Also, what can they expect from checking out your book?
Yeah. So that book, the first one you mentioned, that was my first book that I wrote for my kids. And what you're going to get from it is literally, I poured everything into that book, because the idea was, if my wife and I died, that my kids had these 12 areas, philosophies, if you will, of what life's going to throw at them. We start with vulnerability in the beginning, transcendence as chapter 12. And it's just a simple read. I wanted people to hop on a flight in New York, land in LA, and they could finish the book and have about 3 takeaways per chapter where they're like, yep, that made a difference in my life. So I'm proud of that one. Of my 3 books, it's probably my favorite. Hard to pick sometimes, but I would say that one, I'm proud of that work for sure.
And you guys can get it for free. So check out the show notes. Thank you so much. This episode, again, chock full of practical tips. I think, sometimes when I do an episode, I think of like the checklist of like, where am I, in a place of compassion? How am I doing in this area of my life? Is this something I need to work on, that work-life harmony? Do I need to take responsibility at work? Do I need to stop playing the victim in my life? Like, there's a lot here, right? So remember, always, and in all ways, it is your responsibility to life check yourself. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. Listen, if you're feeling stuck, I want you to know you're not alone, and you don't have to settle for it. I've created a free quiz to help you pinpoint what's draining your energy and exactly how you can fix it. So head over to decodeyourdestinyquiz.com and take the 60-second quiz right now. That's decodeyourdestinyquiz.com. And if you're ready to dive deeper, you can book a free no obligation consultation at marnibatista.com/private coaching. That's Marni, M-A-R-N-I, Batista, B-A-T-T-I-S, as in Sam, T-A.com/private coaching, all one word. Let's take the first step to creating a life you love on your terms. I'm Marni, and I'll see you next time.